Hello friends, in this video I'm going to show you what it's like to cycle in Germany and 8 rules that you need to know so you don't die on the street. I'm kidding, you're not going to die on the street. Cycling in Germany is pretty straightforward, but there are some things that you need to know. Hey, I'm Jen from simplegermany.com, where we help expats settle into life in Germany more smoothly. If you like this kind of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you are notified when we release new content. So let's jump right into it. First things first, so what kind of bikes are there out there in Germany? So I'm going to show you the three most popular bikes that you may see on the streets. Example number 1, it's a mountain bike. This is Yvonne's. Yvonne is my wife and she's my camera woman, so thank you for taking care of recording today. Example number 2, it's a race bike, and this one's mine. It's pretty small, it's pretty lean, it's pretty fast, so I like it very much. And example number 3, if Yvonne comes with me, I'll show you. It's this kind of bike. If I'm not mistaken, this one I think was invented in Holland, who says that? In the Netherlands. And yeah, it's a very comfortable bike. This one is made for women because, as you can see, it's very easy for you just to jump on it. Yeah, and this I would say is the most popular kind of bike that you will see on the streets. So regarding the bikes, there might need some add-ons, or you might need to purchase some add-ons depending on the type of bike that you buy. In the example of this one already brings lights. If you look here, I'm going to move it here a little bit. So the lights are attached to the bike, and behind it there's a button that you can turn the lights on or off. When you turn the lights on, that means that as you're cycling, the lights are going to be on. So the lights are powered by the power of your cycle. So just be aware that whenever you stop on a street light, then the lights are going to be off, most likely. A second add-on that you might need is a bell. Here is a bell. I don't have a bell. Yvonne's bike has a bell. So come with me. Let's go back to our little workshop here. And the bell might be useful to signal to pedestrians that you're coming, to let them know that you are behind them so they don't make sudden moves. If you have been in Germany for some time and you're not a cyclist, you might already be aware of the famous that goes on the streets. So another add-on that you might have is, if you look at this mountain bike, it's a mud pad. Here Yvonne has one in the back and one in the front. And this one is just useful when it's raining, so all the mud doesn't like hit your back or make your clothes dirty. I also have a mud pad, as you can see here. Tuck. What else? Oh, a very important thing is that you will need a lock. Our favorite lock is this one here. I've had this for I don't know how many years already, and my bike hasn't been stolen, so I consider this a pretty good lock. So you might consider investing in a very good lock if you have a very good bike. What else? Another add-on that you might have or need is, first of all, let me show you here our lights. So I mentioned that the previous bike, it had lights included in them. However, some bikes like mine or Yvonne's, it doesn't bring lights included. So we are in Germany. You cannot just buy any lights that you want. The lights need to be approved by the Straßenverkehrsordnung. So there have to be very specific lights. When you buy them on Amazon, usually it says on the description that they are approved. In this case, we have this one for the front light. I don't know if you can see, woo! And this one is the backlight. Another add-on that you might need, let me put this down, is maybe a reflective vest. So I use this usually because I usually cycle with this jacket, which is pretty dark. So in the evening or when it's already dark, I just clip this on, and then I have some reflective protection. I use this with my lights, and that seems to work pretty well. And last but not least, you might need a helmet. Hold on. Here. So funny enough, wearing a helmet is not required by law in Germany. So I don't know why, because it's so important. And yeah, I mean, you invest 80 euros for, I think, a good helmet can last for up to 5 years. And you're protected in case you do fall or have an accident. At least you have some security that your head is going to be somewhat protected, which is always good. So now that we covered the basics, the add-ons that you might need for your bike, let me talk about the rules of cycling in Germany. So I'm going to take out my cheat sheet here. Let me see. So a very important rule. Rule number 1 is do not drink and drive. You heard that right. A lot of people actually, they take their bike to a party and be like, oh, whatever, I have my bicycle, I'm just going to cycle back home drunk. No bueno. This is because if you do get into an accident or the police does stop you and you do have alcohol in your blood, you might even lose your license. It's a really big deal. So big recommendation, do not drink and drive. Thing number 2 is that you have to respect the pedestrians. However, the cars need to respect you. Talking about pedestrians, you might find pedestrians walking on your bike lane. This is very common in Germany. That's where the famous ding ding happens. This is to signal pedestrians that you're coming. If you are going to overtake a pedestrian, another bike, a skateboarder, or anything else, you always do it from the left-hand side. This is because usually people go like this. They move to the right when they hear something. So if you overtake them from the left-hand side, it's always safe that you're not going to hit someone, right? Hopefully. What else? Another rule is you always have to be aware of your environment. Like I mentioned, cycling in Germany, you sometimes need to be next to the cars, you need to be on the streets, and there's a lot of things going on all the time. Europe has very tiny streets, so there's always chaos, somehow chaos. So you always need to be aware. Is there a car coming out of a parking lot? Is a car wanting to turn? Is there a garage that is, opening it up? So just be aware always when you're cycling. And as long as you're aware, you'll always be safe. Trust me, I've been cycling for the past 8 years in Germany, and I've never had an accident. So you always, you can be okay cycling in Germany. Don't be afraid. Okay. Now, tip number 5, you always need to signal before you turn. So if you're turning to the left, you need to signal to the left. If you're turning to the right, obviously you signal to the right. This is to indicate not only to cars that are probably behind you, but pedestrians that are on the sidewalk that you're going to be turning and making a turn so you don't cause any accidents. Now here comes the fun part. Where are you allowed to cycle? So rule of thumb is if there is a bike lane, you need to use the bike lane. That is very important. So if the bike lane is on a street where there are cars coming from both sides, you always need to go in the direction of the traffic. So what does that mean? If the traffic is going this way, you cannot cycle this way. You always need to be cycling on the flow of the traffic. I had a colleague who she did the opposite. She cycled on the opposite against the traffic. A police saw her, and what happened? She got a fine. You heard that right, 15 euros just for cycling on the wrong side of the street. So be aware of that. What else? There are some exceptions, of course, to every rule, and in this case, there are some streets where you can cycle against traffic flow. Usually these streets have a sign that says that cyclists are allowed to cycle freely. So in these kind of streets, it's totally okay that you are cycling against the traffic. If you are cycling on a bike lane and the bike lane is on the street, just be aware that there could be cars or trucks unloading something and they just park on your bike lane. It just happens. I don't know why, but it happens. Since you don't have a honk, you cannot honk at them, so for them to move. So what you usually need to do, you need to stop, look behind you if there are any cars coming, and you overtake whatever vehicle is blocking your path from the left. So this means most likely that you will go into the flow of the traffic to be able to go back into your bike lane. This is very straightforward. It's very easy. Just, be aware that you need to do this sometimes. Now, if there is no bike lane, where do you cycle? So you have to cycle on the street. Only kids are allowed to cycle on the sidewalk. Unless, of course, here comes another exception, unless the sidewalk indicates that you are allowed to be on the sidewalk. So now that you're done cycling, you might wonder, where do I park my bike on the street? So very important is that you can never park it on a sign that indicates that it's like for the firefighters to use it. To be honest, I did that once. I did it in my previous job where I parked it there, and at the end of the day, I got a note warning me that I should not do that, and if I would do that again, I would get a fine. So you can use posts, of course, or poles on the street. You can use pretty much anything that you can lock your bike against, unless it's specified that you shouldn't. And one thing that is not really specified is the fire pole. Woo! So friends, this was how to cycle in Germany. I hope you learned something today. I hope you remain safe on the streets. I love cycling in Europe, in Germany, in Dusseldorf, that's where I live, because it's just so practical. So if you are an avid cyclist, then the best of how do you say in German, viel Spaß on the streets, which is like enjoy the streets. And if you like this kind of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. And I hope I get to talk to you next time. Tschüss!